What's up, notJust developers? Welcome back to a new live stream. I'm super excited for today's build because we're doing something different. We're gonna continue building our Uber Eats dashboard that we started previous week. And we're gonna implement today, we're gonna focus on the backend. We're gonna integrate it with the same backend as we have for our Uber Eats series. And more details, let's see what we're gonna do. A really high overview of the whole project that we're doing here. We are building the Uber Eats applications, which are actually a couple of independent applications. We have a driver application, which is a mobile application, similar to the user side application, which is as well a mobile application. But they are already done. We have finished them during the 5 days challenge. And today the focus is actually on the restaurant dashboard. So this dashboard is specifically intended for restaurants to manage their menu and also manage their orders, to be able to see new orders, to accept orders, and move them from one status to another until it is delivered to the end user. So I decided to give you a little overview of the whole project. We're gonna do it with ReactJS and AWS Amplify. So this is a great opportunity for you to get started with these technologies and to be able to build web applications. But regarding the whole project that we are building in this series, which is the Uber Eats application, we started it in a 5 days challenge, which happened a couple of weeks ago. And we did like every day, like 5-hour live streams where we build. In the first 2 days, we have built the user side application from where he can browse all the restaurants. He can see the dishes, the menu. He can choose, create, and manage his basket and submit an order. After that, in the day 3 and day 4, we have focused on the driver side application, and the driver will be able to see new orders on a map, will be able to pick them up and deliver them to the end user. The interesting part was in day 5 when we synchronized everything together. We implemented the maps. So every time the driver moves closer to the user, the location of the driver updates automatically in real time, and the user on his application will see the location of the driver. So yeah, like that was a super exciting week with a lot of value there. If you haven't checked it out, it's published on the channel. I'm gonna give you the URL in a moment. But yes, the challenge was done, but we still wanted to do the dashboard. So previous week, Lucas started the dashboard and he built the front end of our dashboard with ReactJS and Ant Design. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial from the last week because it was really, really nice. Lucas did a great job there. And yeah, we're going to take the project that Lucas built previous week, the dashboard, and we're going to connect it to our AWS Amplify backend. If we look at the first slide here, as you can see, we have one common backend and 3 independent applications. They're 3 separate independent applications with their own source code. As you can see, 2 of them are mobile applications built with React Native, and one of them is a completely different type of application. It's a web application built with ReactJS. But the cool part is that they are all connected to the same backend. And for example, when the restaurants from the dashboard will add a new dish menu, the user in his application will see that menu. He'll be able to order, and then the driver will see the new order, will be able to pick it up from the restaurant. So like there is a lot of complexity in the synchronizing everything together, but I hope that we managed to make this simple and to give you an idea of how to build these complex systems of applications tied together with data, communicating between each other in real time. And yeah, if you found this valuable, don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we are doing this type of projects based on real life applications. We do them every Friday. So you don't want to miss that out. Drop the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell not to miss any future videos. And with that being said, I think we are ready to get started. Let me just see the Yes, I just wanted to say that all of these tutorials that I discussed about up until now, they are published in this playlist, so you can find them on our channel or following this URL. Yes, if you want to follow only the dashboard build, that's also possible. And the only thing that you'll have to do is to watch the one tutorial from the previous week that was related to our dashboard. And now today we're continuing with the backend. However, if you're also interested in learning React Native and building mobile applications, I'm definitely go check out the 5 days challenge. It's a lot of content, but it's very, very valuable. So yes, if you yes, you will need a couple of things to follow along. And here I'm talking about the asset bundle, where you will find the source code up until now, split in every day, and also these presentations that I'm using. So to get the asset bundle, go to assets.notjust.dev/ubereats and download the files there. Also, for this video, you're going to need an AWS account, which is free to sign up. However, you need the credit card information to create this account. But everything that we're going to use today is covered by the free tier, so you are not going to be charged in the development process. Like if you will deploy some of these applications to market and will get a lot of users, then you might get charged. But now for development, like I have a couple of dozen applications, and I'm not charged any penny. So with that being said, let's get started. And yes, let's get coding, because we have a lot of things to cover today. But I want to see everyone in the live chat. How are you doing, guys? Where are you joining us from today? So let's see. Rogelio, hello. Thank you very much. Okay. So yes, these are some of the prerequisites related to the AWS Amplify. So you need notJS and npm, but I guess you already have them installed if you followed so far, as well as Git, but as well I think you have it already installed. And you need AWS account and Amplify CLI. I left a URL here of how to set up your Amplify CLI, AWS account, and so on. So if you don't have this already, follow the URL, and it's pretty straightforward to set up Amplify CLI. After that, we are ready to start configuring Amplify. All right. Will Lucas be joining us? No, today he cannot join because yeah, he has some doctor visits. So yeah, today no, but in future definitely he's gonna be here. Can you please share the link to the assets? Yes, someone, yeah, Olatunde posted it here. So here you can download the asset bundle. Okay, let me read these long comments. Your question is regarding limiting the number of portions or the number of dishes that the restaurant can serve. We didn't implement this feature. It's quite an edge case. I mean, it's quite specific feature. It shouldn't be very hard to implement. You just add one more field to the data model of our dish. So, and then you let the restaurant be able to update it. So I'm gonna point towards where you would need to do these changes to implement it when we get there. Hello from Tunisia. Hi. This is a great project to add to the academy. Yes, this is a very, very in-depth project, like one of the biggest projects that we have done so far on YouTube for free. From Argentina, from Indonesia. Awesome. All right, guys. So let's have a look at the application that we have right now. I have it here open in Visual Studio Code, but as I said, I also provided it in the, where is it? In the asset bundle that you can download following the URL in the description, assets.notjust.dev/Uber Eats. And here in this asset bundle, there is the folder source code. And in the source code, there is this day 6 dashboard front end zip. And when you unzip this folder, you will see these three folders that represents 3 applications that we have built so far. The Uber Eats Courier mobile application, the Uber Eats user-side application. But what we're interested in is this Uber Eats restaurant dashboard. This is a project that Lucas has built previous week, so we're going to start from here. And for that, we can click on it and open it in Visual Studio Code to have it here. So now I have it here open in Visual Studio Code. What you would want to do is first to install the dependencies. So you can do npm i. However, this will trigger an error because of some libraries not working, for example, with React 18. So Lucas has used the latest version of React, which is React 18, which is a major update. And not all the libraries have made sure that everything is working in this React 18 version. For example, React Google Places autocomplete depends on either React 16 or 17. So we could either downgrade React from here, or we can ignore this error for now and test and see if everything is working perfectly with the React Google Places autocomplete to make sure that there is no breaking changes for this specific versions, combination of versions. So what we can do for now is do npm i and then copy this legacy peer dependency. So -- legacy peer deps. This will ignore these peer dependencies issues. So it's not the perfect solution for now, but it works. So I don't want to go through the process of downgrading ReactJS and waiting until the other libraries catch up with ReactJS 18. And for that reason, yeah, like we're gonna do it like this, but later like other libraries will also catch up and support the new version. So after everything is installed, we can run npm start to start our development server. And this will actually also open a browser window here with our project. Hello from Sudan. Hi. El Salvador. Hello, Jamie. So here is the application that Lucas has built, the front-end application. As we can see, we start from the homepage, which displays a list of orders. And that's actually what we want. We want to see the new orders or the orders that we are working with right now. Basically, the active orders that is on our side, on the restaurant side. So here we will display orders that are either new, they are either cooking or ready for pickup. After the order is picked up by the driver, we're going to remove it from here because it's already not the responsibility of the restaurant to manage it. And what we're going to do, we're going to move it actually in the order history in order to have a possibility to have a list of all the previous orders that we have done as a restaurant. So this is the order history. These orders are also clickable. So when we click, we get more details about the customer. the customer address, but what's more important is the items that the customer ordered. Here we will have a couple of options with the buttons. For example, initially we're going to have two buttons: accept order or decline order. And after we accept the order, sorry, we're going to have this button, food is done, to say that, yeah, like the food is done, it is ready for pickup. All right, this is about orders. Another important part is the menu. The menu is where we will manage all the dishes that the restaurant has. And we're going to do that by creating, for example, here, by providing a name, a description, and a price, and submitting it. Now nothing is working because it's using dummy data. But yeah, today we're going to connect it with a backend. And by creating it here, we're going to save it in the database. Also, we're going to be able to remove them. And yeah, that's it with a menu. Lastly, it's the settings of a restaurant. And here, the restaurant will be able to set the name of the restaurant, the address, which is working with Google autocomplete. So if I write here Santa Cruz, we will see it here. And after you select, as we can see, we also get the latitude and longitude, which is are important values to save in the database regarding the restaurant, to be able to show it on the map in the user application, in the driver application, and in other places where we need the specific location of the restaurant. So here is our application. Let's get started. And yes, the first step would be to configure our Amplify project. So we're not going to create a new Amplify project because we are going to connect to the same Amplify backend as our mobile applications are connected to. So for that, let's go ahead in AWS.Amazon. Let me share my screen. If I forget to share a screen, just write me a message in the chat. So from here, let's sign into the console. And let's go ahead and search for AWS Amplify. AWS Amplify. And here we will access the application that we have already created. So in my case, that's Uber Eats. From here, let's launch the studio, because we will manage our backend infrastructure and the data and everything about our Amplify project using the Amplify Studio dashboard. So here is our application. And what we want to do is to press on the local setup here in the top right corner and grab the Amplify pull command. This command will pull the backend in a project, in an existing project or in a completely new project. So that's what we want to do. We want to pull the backend in our dashboard, in our Uber Eats dashboard, to be able to connect from the Uber Eats dashboard to our backend. So let's open a terminal. Actually, let's open a new one by pressing on the plus sign. And let's paste the command: amplify pull, app ID, and environment name staging. I have an update for Amplify. I haven't worked for a while on my Windows machine. So let me quickly upgrade it. Hopefully it's not going to take a lot. Hello from Sri Lanka. Okay, so successfully upgraded Amplify CLI. Perfect. Let's go ahead and do Amplify pull here. All right, the first step was it automatically opened for us a window from where we need to authenticate just by saying yes. And after that, we should follow the next steps here in the in the terminal. So first of all is the editor. So I'm going to choose Visual Studio Code. The type of application is JavaScript, and the framework is React. And I see that it's smart enough to understand that it's React because it automatically selected for me. The source directory, I'm going to leave by default src, distribution directory as well. So basically, I'm just pressing enter until we get to this step, where it will ask us if we want to modify this backend. And the question is actually if we want to pull the actual code for the backend and configuration for the backend. And let's say yes, we want to do that to be able to see it in our project. I see a lot of interesting suggestions here. For example, 3D model to React. That's actually a very good idea. Let me note it down. But you know what? I want to know something. Let me do a poll real quick, because we are doing this project with we are doing this project with ReactJS, but most of our projects on the channel is focused on React Native and mobile development. I want to ask you, are you interested in diversifying and seeing other technologies as well? For example, web development with ReactJS. So let me ask these questions here. Okay, that's it. How to remove option. So here is the poll. Please cast your votes. I'm really curious if you are interested in more web development content as well. Hey, Christian, I work with React and learning native with your course. That's amazing. How do you find the course so far? At what module are you at the moment? So yes, the first step was to pull the changes. And the next step after pulling these changes is to configure Amplify in our project. But before that, we will have to install two libraries. Let's go ahead and install them. npm install, but let me first clear to see it properly. And let's do npm install. And we need AWS Amplify library and the @AWS Amplify /UI React. So the AWS Amplify is the core of the library, and the second one is specifically the library for React that has some UI components that we will help us speed up our development process. So let's install these two libraries, but actually we will need to do legacy. How is it called? Called legacy peer dependencies. So around 60% of people want to see more web development as well. That's interesting. But I actually will agree with Paul here. So my idea is that indeed there are a lot of web development resources out there. And I saw that a lot of people are struggling with mobile development and full stack development because this is actually not a lot of people are doing this. So that's why I always stick to React Native so far. And yeah, thinking about that. Everything shifted to mobile. Keep React Native. I would say so. Like a lot of things are now mobile applications, but there are also a lot of projects on the web and interesting projects that I'm also interested. But yeah, so as I was saying, like it will do the same error because we needed to add that legacy here dependencies. For example, yeah, Saddam is saying do some clones with ReactJS, Tailwind CSS. Where is it? Tailwind CSS and TypeScript. That will help a lot of people. Yeah, if I would do something in web development, that will definitely be ReactJS, most probably Next.js, because Next.js is really, really powerful. Tailwind, definitely, like I love it. TypeScript depends, like if the tutorial is for beginners or not. This is interesting. How about sticking to mobile development, but not only React Native, but also Flutter? I'm not sure. Not sure. Not very interested in that. But we can have some fun to do with something with Flutter. Yes, with Yarn it actually works fine with these dependencies. This is something. So what we're doing here is actually we're designing the future of our channel. Fotzing is having like a very, very good idea. He's saying like, I recommend you to go more in depth to make production ready application that we can launch together and see progressions on the market. Like I had this idea of actually starting how's it called, commercial project, let's say commercial project, a project that I will build during live streams, and at the end I will actually try to create a business out of it. I'll try to release that application, and I'm going to try to teach you like how to go through all this process of making this application production ready, actually monetizing it, upgrading it, keeping it up to date, and so on. So this is something interesting, but actually this like takes a lot of time, and like most probably you will lose the interest in it. So this project would take like at least 2 months to build, and like after 2 weeks you're just gonna get lost and you're not gonna be interested, like if you understand what I mean. Because if you like at some random point like open that tutorial after 3 weeks, you open a live stream like at week 5, you don't understand like the context, you don't understand where we are coming from, you don't understand where we are going, so you're going to say like it's something not interesting for me. So we'll see. It's interesting, but I have a lot of ideas and deciding like what would be the best for you guys. But now moving back to keep the ideas coming, by the way. Like I really love this, and I read all the comments and I take notes, so it's really helpful for me to understand where to move forward. But now moving back to the project, because we still have a lot to do. We didn't do a lot so far, but what we the previous step was to install the AWS Amplify packages. And before that, we have done amplify pool. Now I want to show you what the amplify pool command did for us. First of all, it created this amplify folder where it keeps all the configuration and all the code for our backend. So in a lot of cases, we don't have to mess up here. Only in some specific use cases, like we might go there to edit something, but this is out of scope for this tutorial. Like for example, in the full stack mobile developer course that we have, a premium course that we launched, there we are working a lot with this backend, and we are actually like defining all the API based on this schema. On YouTube, like we're not getting into that many details. Another file that is was generated by pulling our Amplify backend is in the source called AWS exports. This AWS exports file is a configuration object that specifies how should Amplify connect to our backend. Basically, it points to specifically our resources in the cloud that we have set up, such as the, let's say, the user pool here for managing our users. This is the ID, and Amplify knows how to connect to it and get our users. So this file is very important because we need this file to configure Amplify in our project. To do that, let's open up.js. And let's import a couple of things here. Let's import Amplify from AWS Amplify. Let's import the configuration file that you just saw, AWS config, from the same directory and AWS exports, these AWS exports that I was talking about. And now, having Amplify and the configuration file, we can simply put them together and say amplify.configure AWS config. And that's it. Our application is configured. Let me see if we didn't break anything. So if I refresh, yeah, everything is working fine. Nothing was broken. And yeah, that's basically what we intended to do now, because we're gonna see features in the next steps. Firstly, we have configure Amplify, and now we can move to the next step. The next step is actually we will need a couple of changes to our data model for today's video. So I want to do them right now, set them to be deployed, and move to the next feature because deployment usually takes like around 5 minutes. So I don't want to waste this time. Let's go ahead and look at our data model, at our existing data model. Let's go here in Amplify Studio, and if we open the data tab here, we're gonna see all our models that we have here. So one thing that I want to add is here in order status. As you can see from our presentation, in the UI we set, but no, it's not in our presentation. Wait a second. It's actually in our application here. If we press on an order, we see that we will be able to decline an order. And I think this is a necessary feature to decline an order because maybe you are closed, maybe something happened and you cannot take the order. So declining an order, what will it do? It will move it to it will set the status of an order as declined. But the thing is that in the order status, we don't have a value for the decline. So let's add this new value and let's call it declined by restaurant. I wanted to specify specifically by who was it declined because maybe you will also want to add another value for decline by, I don't know, driver. Like it really depends on how you want to design these features. But for now, like it's okay, decline by restaurant. All right. Another thing that we want to do is whenever we will log in this dashboard, we need to know what restaurant are we managing, because there will be thousands of restaurants, and whenever a user signs up in that dashboard, we need to know the administrator of which restaurant is this user. The same way as we have connected, for example, a user in our database with a user from Cognito with this sub, and the same way as we connected the driver. Where is the courier? Somewhere on top. The same way as we connected the courier with the authenticated user with this sub field, the same way we will do with our restaurant. We will connect the restaurant to the administrator. So let's say we need a new field here. We can call it sub because this is the name of a field, the subject, which is the unique identifier of the authenticated user. But in this case, it makes more sense to have something more descriptive. For example, administrator sub. And in this case, we will know which subject is the administrator. So administrator. Did I make a mistake here? Admin sub. Let's do just admin sub. Admin sub. This is going to be a string. So that's most probably everything that we need for now. So let's press save and deploy. This will check our updates. And now let's deploy it. Okay, now we see here top right corner deploying, and it's gonna take around like 5 minutes. But that's okay because we can move to the next feature, and while we will implement the authentication, this is gonna be deployed, so we will be able to pull them in a moment, in a while. All right, so let's go ahead and how to work with this. Okay, like this. So adding, let's see, what's our next step? We have updated the data model by adding the subfield to the restaurant and now adding restaurant declined order status. Actually, we added it declined by restaurant. All right, the next step is authentication. And authentication, similar to React Native, is very easy here. So what we have to do is we have to import the with authenticator hook, and we're going to import it from import with authenticator hook from the AWS Amplify UI React. And what we have to do is to wrap our application in the with authenticator. That's it. By doing this, we will automatically have authentication in our application. Let me see if I have to restart it with authenticator. And let me see if, yes, it's from here. All right, let's go ahead and restart our server to make sure that we have all the new libraries. Hey, thank you very much for supporting and for encouraging everyone to drop the like button. Drop us and smash the like button, guys. It really helps us a lot. So here we have it. For some reason, it's not working. ¿Por qué? Is it from the... No, actually, with authenticator, I think it's from the legacy. But there is another way, and it's actually, instead of the hook, is with the component authenticator. So authenticator. And what we have to do is to wrap our whole application here, basically the whole layout, in the authenticator. And we will close it at the end here. And we don't need the higher order component that with authenticator. So this is actually the two ways we can do it. Don't know why with authenticator didn't work. Maybe I imported it from a different place. But now let's see. No, it's still not working. Why are not working? Does it did it remember that I'm already yes. It remembers that I'm already signed in. So yeah, I'm gonna work here in a separate in an incognito window. So actually both of them will work, both with authenticator and this authenticator component. I was just already logged in. But the problem was that, open it here. The problem, as you can see, is with the styles. The styles are not the best. And that's because we didn't import the AWS styles. And to do that, let's do import. And we're going to take them from AWS Amplify UI React and from actually the styles.css. We simply import them here in app.js and they will be available. So if I go here, now it's already better. And I think actually the with authenticator was displaying it a bit better because it was displaying it in the middle. So I don't know, maybe I'm confusing you, but both of these methods are working. I'm just gonna choose the with authenticator one. For you, you decide which one you think it's easier for you. Wrapping the application in the authenticator or the export in the with authenticator higher order component. And now, don't tell me you're yes. Now we see automatically the sign-in page. And here we can also create an account. I already have an account there, if I'm not mistaken. So let me see user management. I have it here. So let me go to delete the user and create it again to show you how you can do it as well. So in the create an account, we can provide an email and very easy password. And after that, we can press create an account. Now, on our email, we are supposed to receive a confirmation code. Let me check. Yes, we have it. So let's confirm our account because at the moment, our account is created, but it has a status of unconfirmed. So we need to specifically to provide the code in order to confirm our email. And after that's done, we are automatically signed in the application. And if I refresh the page, as you can see, it automatically displays the home page because it manages the cookies and the tokens, the session automatically for us without us having to do anything. So yeah, it's that easy to implement authentication, basic authentication. It provides like the default user interface that you can also adjust with custom themes quite easily. Or if you need very custom flow for authentication, you can also do that by simply designing, implementing the screens yourself, and by simply calling a couple of functions from the auth module. One of these functions is the sign out. So I want to show you how you can call some functions directly to the authentication module. So let's go ahead here. Yes. And let's go in our code. Where do we want to sign up? Probably it's going to be one extra menu item here on the left menu. And that menu we can find in the source, components, side menu, index. And here is our side menu. As you can see, it works with a menu component from the end design. What we can do is to add one extra button by providing one extra object here in the menu items. So let's add it here like this. Key, what's going to be the key? Sign out, or like this, sign out. The label will be sign out. And there is also another property, I think it's danger, or how is it called, true. And that will display it with red. Yes. And now, as you can see, there is a file here. There is a menu option, sign out. If I press on it, nothing happens. I'm just redirected to a page, sign out. Why is that happening? Why am I redirected? Because that's what we implemented here in the previous video. Whenever we click on an item, we simply navigate to the item.key. So we navigate to the /sign out. Well, for everything else, this is working okay. We are simply navigating there. But for the sign out, we don't want to navigate anywhere. We need to execute some command. So for that reason, let me grab this function from here, the onClick function, and let me grab it into a separate function here, const on click equal and paste the code. I'm also going to add the curly brackets here because we'll need more logic. And we can simply provide this onClick function to the onClick event. Now everything will work the same, but we can add one check. If menu item dot key is equal to the key of a sign out, this sign out key, then we need to do something else, and we need to actually sign out the user, which we're going to do in a moment. Otherwise, we will navigate. Okay, so how can we sign out the user? Well, for that, we will need the auth module from the AWS Amplify package. And we will simply do auth.sign out. That's it. Let's give it a try. So if I go to our pages, it still works as expected. But if I press sign out, nothing happens. But if I refresh the page, as you can see, we are signed out. And here I can log in again, and we are coming back here. So it actually works, it signs out, but it doesn't automatically refresh the state of application. And to do that, what I want to do, the easiest way to update the application, actually what I want to do after signing out the user is to refresh the page, because everything is going to be, we need to get rid of everything, like all the state and so on. So to do that, we first will need to make the function async, because we will need to await signing out the user, which is a synchronous function. And after we are done with signing out, we can refresh the page. We can physically refresh the page using the window.location.reload. And yes, let's give it a try. Windows location reload. This will reload the window. And if I'm going to press on the sign out, I'm automatically redirected to the home page. So that's it. That's how we can actually call methods directly on the authentication module. And there are more than 20 functions on this auth module, such as auth.sign-in. And here you need to give, as you see, username and password, or sign up. And by doing this, you can connect it to a custom form and sign up the user manually if you need very custom flows and user interface. All right, so with that being said, we're done with actually authentication. We're gonna still have to do a couple of things to manage, like who is the administrator of which restaurant, but we're gonna do that a bit later, because right now our deployment is successful, which means that our data now was updated. For example, the restaurant has an admin sub, which is good. And what we have to do is to execute the amplify pull command once again to get these changes that we made in the cloud, to get them locally in our project. So let's go to the second terminal here, and let's do amplify pull again. We're done with authentication, and our next step is to see how we can fetch data with DataStore. And we're going to see that by simply fetching our orders on our order page using Amplify and using DataStore specifically. If we go back here, we see that it was updated. And yeah, actually, you know what? I'm gonna meet everything that we have done so far. All right. Hello, Dawn. Hello from Russia. Hey, Vlad. What's up? How are you doing? Joel, hello. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you very much. Okay, so as I said, our next step is to try to query some data using DataStore. All right, for that, let's go ahead in our source, and in the modules, we're gonna go to the orders page, because this is the page that is responsible for this orders table, orders. So at the moment, as you can see, this table that Lucas generated is working with dummy data that is taken from orders.json. Well, we will not need this because we will query them and save them in state. But for that, we will need a couple of things. For example, we will need to keep the orders in state after fetching them. So we will need use state from React. But also we will need a use effect because we will want to query the orders when this component mounts. And to do that, we will need the use effect. After that, let's import the data store that we will use to query our database. So let's import data store from AWS Amplify. And also let's import the model that we need to query. The model is one of these data models that we have. For example, a dish, a restaurant, a user, and so on. These are our models. If we look in the source models folder, Amplify automatically generated the data for them. So as you can see here, like there is the order table. And if I'm gonna check, yeah, here is the order. So let's import this order in our file because we will want to query it from models. Make sure it's models and not modules. It's a bit tricky that we are so close together called. I would call this, instead of modules, I would call it screens probably. But okay, so now with all of these things, let's go ahead and declare the state for our orders. So orders set orders equal use state. Initially, it's going to be an empty array. Now, in the use effect, let's go ahead and define it here. With an empty dependency array, and this will make the function inside the use effect to be called only the first time the orders component is mounted. So basically, the first time it loads on the screen, then we are doing this function. So what do we want to do? We want to query our orders. So let's call datastore.query. What do we want to query? We want to query this model. And after we receive a result, .then, we will simply set them in state. So set orders here. As simple as that. we can go ahead and do console log orders to see the structure of our orders. As you can see, it's very simple. It's datastore.query. Then we specify what do we want to query. And after that, we specify what do we want to do with the results. This actually can be written with async await, but inside the use effect, it's really handy to use the .van approach because we don't have to declare another async function and call it in a use effect. Like, yeah, async await in a use effect is not very handy to do. So let's go ahead and see what it managed to query. We already see a lot of rows here. I don't see any values except that undefined one. But let's go ahead and open the console and see what we have here in this array. Well, we have an array with all the data about our orders. These orders have like these specific fields. We don't see any data in the table because the fields that the table is trying to access are a bit different in our backend. So this table component will populate every cell in the table based on this data index. This data index specifies how should I get that data, what key should I use to get the data from one line of data. So here we specify order ID. But as we can see here, there is no order ID in our model. There is an ID. So let's go ahead and say instead of order ID, simply ID. And I'm going to specify the key as well, like to keep them consistent. If I save, I right away see the order IDs there. Not sure if we actually need them, but yeah, it's okay to just to see them maybe for debugging. Then there is the delivery address. The delivery address should be the delivery address of the end user. The problem is that, as we can see here, we have access to the courier, we have access to the restaurant, but we don't have access to the user. We only have the user ID here. So we're going to get back to this problem and query the user with this user ID to be able to render the delivery address. But regarding the price, as we can see, the price in our backend is called total. So let's change it here from price to total price. Okay. And if we look here, we see the price displayed, but it has a lot of digits after the dot. So what we can do is in the render method that specify how we want to render this data, we can say that this price should be truncated using the to fixed and 2 digits after comma. We want to display only 2 digits after the comma. Now all of them are displayed properly here. Okay, price. And lastly, we have status. And status actually has a separate function, render order status. That is this render order status. As I see here, depending on the order status, if it is accepted, pending, declined, or so on, the problem is with actually the statuses, because we don't have accepted. If we look in our models index.t at the top, here is our order statuses. We have new, for example, so we can say new here, and we see a couple of them appeared with a green. But instead of providing them with as a string, we can do better. We can say we can actually access it by doing order status that was automatically imported from the models, this enumeration, and we can simply say order status dot new is this one with green, for example, order status dot cooking, and another one will be order status dot ready for pickup. These are the three statuses that we want to render here. I'm not sure yet if the colors are proper, but like these are the ones here. So, okay, as we can see, they're all displayed. I want to improve a bit here because we are always repeating this tag, and the only thing that changes is the color, green, orange, or red. So one way to improve it is to actually say in these if statements to only define the color. So color is going to be, I don't know, by default is going to be gray. And inside here, we're going to say color is equal to green. Here, color is equal to orange. And here, color is equal to red. Now, I will take this return tag and put them outside the if statements and remove it from the other places as well. Because we will define the color here, and then we will simply specify the color and render the tag only once. It was still rendered only once, but in our code, like we see it only once. Let's see if it's working. Okay, that's good. These completed, they shouldn't be here because they are from the order history, but we're going to handle them a bit later. Now, this is good, but actually, we can also improve this quite a bit. One way to improve this would be with switch cases, but I really hate them. I never write switch cases. And actually, I would rather write an object that maps one order status to a color. And we do that by simply saying, we first define an object, status to color. And if the status is new, the color will be green. If the status is cooking, the color will be orange. If the status is ready for pickup, the status will be red. And then we can simply say the color is equal to status to color at position by the, give me the value from this object where the key is equal to order status. This is what we are trying to do. We are accessing one property based on the order status. So if order status is new, it's going to access this one. So if I check right now, it works as expected. And we have done it like with a simple object in 4 lines instead of a lot of if statements here. Another thing is that these fields right now, we hard-coded them, new, cooking, ready for pickup. And we can leave them like this because the next part might confuse you a bit. But in order not to hard-code them, but to actually get them from here, for example, from order status, new, order status, cooking, and so on, to access them dynamically, we can specify a dynamic key in an object by putting it inside the square brackets. And here we can say status order status dot new. The same way here, order status dot cooking, and the same way here, order status dot ready for pickup. And in this case, we make sure that the values are actually the ones coming from our database. Like we are not hard coding, we're not repeating this new. We are taking it from here. Let's see if it works. It still works, and it works as expected. So this is our render order status. We can remove a console log. And as we can see, all of them are displayed here. We can go to a new page. We can come back. But at the moment, we are missing the delivery address of the user. The delivery address, as I said, is coming from the end user. But our order, when we query it, it only has user ID. It doesn't have a user property similar to this restaurant. So what we will do is we will query the user separately based on this user ID. So for that, we need a new state variable, const. Not here. Actually, you know what? We're gonna do it better in this folder, order. In the details page, we're gonna do that here. In the home page, not sure. I'm not sure if it needs to be here. Should it be here? Yes, let's we'll see later what we do, either to query it here as well or only on the details page. For now, we are good. We saw how easy it is to query our data and fetch our data from our API using DataStore. But before moving forward, I will move to the restaurant CRUD operations. We will get back to the orders a bit later, but before that, like we need these restaurant CRUD operations because we depend a lot on the restaurant. For example, let me show you one problem that we have. In this orders page, at the moment we display all the orders from our database. But what we actually should do is only display the orders for the restaurant that we are signing with, for the restaurant that we are managing. So not all the orders, but only the orders to this specific restaurant. At the moment, there is no way to know which restaurant we are managing at the moment. So that's why I decided to move first to the restaurant CRUD operation. And then when we know information about the restaurant, we will be able to finish the orders CRUD operations. Don't forget to smash the like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Hey, Aditya, thank you very much. How is the course going? How is your progress? So for the restaurant CRUD, what we will need to do. First of all, we need to check if a restaurant is saved in the database, and if not, we need to show the settings page and save the restaurant. So the first time we sign up, here, for example, I'm gonna sign out. When we create an account, you see, here it's a bit challenging to design this because it depends on the way we create restaurant. If we allow anyone to create a restaurant and to start publishing on our application, we would have like this sign up form, and he will be able to create an account, and after that we will create his restaurant automatically. Or if we decide to have like an invite only or to pre-create the accounts and set up the restaurants for them, like you would need to do it a bit differently from yeah, like there are a lot of options. Basically adding the restaurant from the content tab here, or having another dashboard for a super admin that will create restaurants, and similar to what he's saying here, to have a super admin. But in our case, we're gonna allow any user to create an account, and when he creates an account, we will have to automatically create a restaurant for his account that he signs up here. So for that, what we will have to do is, when we get to our application, we should check, is this user that is signed up, is he an administrator for any restaurant? If yes, then get that restaurant, get all the orders for that restaurant, and manage that restaurant. Otherwise, simply show the settings page so he can create his restaurant. Basically, he can set his name, set his address, and then start adding menu items to his restaurant. So this settings page, yes, when there is no restaurant in the database, the only page that we should see here is the settings page. So let's go ahead, and for that, we'll do it in a very similar way. We did it for our mobile applications for user or for the drivers. We will need to manage these things in a context. So let's start by creating a folder, contexts. And inside this context, let's create a new file called restaurant context .gsx or just JS. Okay, right? Are we working simply with JS? Okay. So here we will need to create context. So let's import create context from React. And let's create the context. So restaurant context equal create context. Now let's define a component that will render this provider, this context provider. So the component will be called restaurant context provider equal to a simple component that will return will render something on the screen, and it will specifically render our context provider, because we need to put everything inside the provider to be able to access it. Now, inside the provider, we will render everything that this component will receive as children. So children, we take them from here and we simply render them inside the provider. Children. This provider also needs a value that we will specify in a moment. And lastly, not to forget, we need to export default restaurant context provider. Awesome. Now let's import this restaurant context provider in our app.js. So let's go ahead and import it somewhere here. Restaurant context provider from context restaurant context, and let's wrap basically our whole application, the whole layout, in this restaurant provider. So we have layout, we're gonna end it here. All right, like this. Let's see if we didn't break anything. I think we didn't. That's good. And now we will need a couple of things here. The first thing will be what we will manage here in the context provider is the authenticated user. So let's save it in a state, user, and set user equal use state. Oh my God, I'm not showing the screen. Now I understand, Lucas. So most probably I'm gonna delete my context and I'm gonna start again. That's gonna be the easiest one. Just so everyone is on the same page. So as I was saying, like the reason why we need this context, probably that was clear, because we need to manage like information about restaurant and administrator, authenticated user in a central place, and to have access to it from everywhere in our application. So for that, let's go ahead and create the context folder. Contexts. And inside the contexts, let's create the restaurant context.js. Inside this file, we will import firstly create context from React. And let's start by creating the restaurant context by creating it here. Perfect. Now let's define the component that will render the provider, and I will call it restaurant context provider, which is a simple React component that will render the restaurant context.provider. It should be like this. And inside the provider, we will have to render the children property that we will receive through props. And these children are all the components below the tree, below this component that we will render. And I'm going to show you in a moment which exactly are these children. Export default restaurant context provider. Now, inside our app.js, we need to import our newly created context. So let's import restaurant context provider from contexts, restaurant context. And we will wrap our whole application in it like this. Restaurant context provider. And we will close it after the layout closes. And now, all of these components that you see here selected, starting from the layout, will be passed to the restaurant context provider as a property with a name children, because these are the children of our provider. And if we look here, it's passed as children, and we simply render them inside our provider. And by doing this, all our screens in our app routes will be inside the context provider and will have access to our restaurant context. Awesome. So as I was saying, we need to, come on, it like this. No, it doesn't want, okay. So as I was saying, we will need to track here two things. The administrator, the authenticated user, that we will get from Cognito, from our auth module, and the restaurant that we will get from our database using DataStore. And we're going to connect them based on that subfield that we defined. So first thing that we will have to save is the user from the auth module, and set user is use state. And nothing initially. Here is use state. Also, we will need restaurant and set restaurant use state. That's it like this. Now, when the component mounts, we need to see what authenticated user do we have there. And we're going to take that inside the use effect. Inside the use effect, using the auth module, import auth module from the AWS Amplify. And let's define the use effect. That is going to be called when the component mounts, basically at the beginning of our application. And here, what we want to do is to do authentication dot current authenticated user, we can also say bypass cache to actually try to take it from the server, not from the cache. And after that is done, we can simply set that user in our state. What? Okay. Some video started playing. In the then, we will simply set in the state as set user. For that, let's simply console log the user to see what do we have there. Let's go back to our application here. And we see Cognito user. And the Cognito user has attributes and has this sub. This sub is what we are interested in because this is the unique identifier of the logged in user. And it stands for subject. Okay, we have authenticated user. Now what we will have to do is in our database, we will have to go through the restaurants and we will have to check this administrator ID and we will have to see, is there any restaurant that this user is an administrator for? And if yes, then we're going to set it in state and we will know that we are managing that restaurant. Okay, so how do we do that? We do that like this. As well in a use effect, because it will depend. Querying the user from the database will depend on this user object from the authentication, because we will query based on the user dot attributes dot subject. Actually, let me grab the const sub is equal user question mark attributes. We saw it, it's under attributes dot, also with question mark because the user can be null. So like this. Let's try to do console log sub to see if we took it correctly. We should see a number. Yes, this is the sub, the identifier of our Cognito user. Now, in this use effect, we will have to fetch restaurant and filter by admin sub. And when should we fetch the restaurant? Whenever this subject changes here. Whenever this subject changes, that means that a new user is authenticated and we need to fetch the restaurant again. All right, so how do we fetch the restaurant? Well, we use DataStore from AWS Amplify. It was imported automatically here. DataStore.query. And what do we query? We query the restaurant from the models. As you can see here, restaurant models. But we don't simply query all of them. We will actually provide a function that will serve as a filter. So we need to filter only the restaurants, for example, let's do R, where R dot, what do we want to filter on the admin sub. It's a function and we need to specify first the operation that we want to run. So the operation in our case is the equality. We need a restaurant which admin sub is equal. So we need to specify EQ. And the second is the operand, like what do we want to compare it with? We want to compare it with this sub that is coming from our authentication. So restaurant, okay. And then what then will happen? Then we will get some restaurants, which we can simply console log restaurant. restaurants. And let's see. Initially, it should be, let's refresh, empty array. Yes, because there is no restaurant that specify our subject as administrator. But if I'm going to go to user management and I'm going to check the user that I'm logged in here with, and I'm going to take the sub here, these digits. Let's copy them without AWS, just these digits. Let's go back to the content and let's say that let's set up that we are an administrator of a restaurant. So if I'm gonna set that I'm an administrator for which one, I don't remember which one we were using. Probably this one. Let's see. And let's go to the admin sub and paste here the admin sub. If I'm gonna refresh the application right now, we see that initially, yeah, it's empty because we need to do a check. We see that we are console logging it a couple of times, meaning that we are fetching a couple of times. And that's because initially the sub is null and it still triggers this use effect. So we will check if sub is null, then we're gonna simply stop the execution. Do the fetching only if sub is defined. So now if I'm gonna refresh, we see only once and with a model with the information about the restaurant itself. Awesome. So that means that restaurants is an array and we will want to set in state the first restaurant from that array because they might be a lot of them, but we are specifically interested in the first one. Actually, it shouldn't be a lot of them. One user should be managing only one restaurant. Restaurants here, not restaurant. Okay, now we are setting it into the state. Will it want to do it like this? Because now, like this, it looks a bit better. But I'm pretty sure it will move from a new line. Yes. Okay, no worries. So thank you very much. So guys, is this are these steps that we are doing here clear to you? So to recap everything that we have done here, when the component mounts, what we are doing is we are getting the current authenticated user from the authentication module. After we get this information and we set it into the state, we will trigger the next use effect to execute because it depends on this sub taken from the authenticated user. Now, when this sub changes, we will fetch the restaurant where the administrator subject is equal to this sub from the authentication module. And in this way, we're connecting a restaurant with an authenticated user. Because right now, if I'm going to go ahead in the staging here, and for the Williamson, if I'm going to remove admin sub from here, save restaurant. No, actually, let me leave it for a moment because I want to, reset. I will actually need, let me add it for a moment just to show something visible on the screen to bring the point home. So in the content, let's go to let's save a restaurant. Now, this context provider doesn't make a lot of sense without us actually using these values. So let's go ahead and use this restaurant. And to use it in our application from the context itself, we need to provide it to the value in the provider. And this will specify the fields that we want to export through this context provider. So one of these things that I want to export is the restaurant itself. I'm going to add more things as we need there. Another thing that I like to do whenever setting up a context is to create a helper hook that will give me the context consumer that will make my life easier in the next step. So to do that, let's do export const. The name of our custom hook is going to be use restaurant context. And this is going to be a function that will, when called, will call use context. And what context? Restaurant context. Basically, instead of importing two things in our application, use context and restaurant context, and then putting them together like this, I'll have to import only one, which is a use restaurant context. It's a very little improvement, but it makes a lot of difference. Like the less things that I will have to import in my application, the better. So this use restaurant context. Now we can go in our components. Let's go in our side menu and render the title of our restaurant in our side menu somewhere here. So let's go ahead in the side menu. What do we have? Menu items. Probably it's not in the side menu. It's in app.js. We have layout cider with an image, and then we have a side menu. Let's go. No, actually, let's put it in the side menu. It's better there. I will. Yep. In the return, let's go ahead and put them inside a fragment, because besides the menu, I also want to render, for example, an, I don't know, H2 with the restaurant title. But to get the restaurant title, first I need to get the restaurant. And to do that, we're going to use that custom hook, use restaurant context, to get access to our restaurant. Now I can simply go ahead and render the restaurant dot name. Is it name? Probably it's name. Let's see it right now. All right, we see it. Williams, Fadel, Monte, and something like that. I can do it like H3. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the styles. Even H3 is a lot. H4. Will it work, or I made a mistake? Can read properties of undefined reading name? Yes, because we need to first check if restaurant is defined, and only then to render the name there. Because sometimes, I mean, at the beginning, it's not yet defined. So let's do it like this. Right, we see it here at the top. Maybe I can use some design components. I haven't worked with design in a while. Design to improve a bit the design of this one. Components, typography. What's this? No, H1. I'm not gonna waste time on this. I just wanted to see the title here. I see it. That's perfect. I can move on. So this restaurant title is coming from our context provider. And as you can see, it is defined and we see it here. But if we're gonna go ahead and remove the admin sub from here, simulating a newly registered user, then in our React Native application, we're not gonna see the title. But besides the title, we also shouldn't see the orders, the menu, the order history, and only the settings, because we first have to create that restaurant and then manage their orders and menu. So based on this variable restaurant, inside the side menu, I'm going to decide if we add these order histories and so on or not. Let me see how to do it. Well, let's do it like this. Restaurant menu items, and this will be the items only specifically for the restaurant, and they are the slash menu and order history, or let's say main menu items. Then this one will be menu items. Here we will here we need to also include the main menu items only if a restaurant is defined. So, oh, that's interesting. So I'm going to how to easier do that. So let's destructure here based on the restaurant. Well, my camera is falling. Come on. Okay. So if restaurant is defined, then we're gonna destructure the main menu items. Otherwise, we're gonna destructure an empty array. Will this work? Let's see. Now we see only settings. It means that it works for this use case. For the other one, I'm gonna just try it like this. Yes, it works like this as well. So what we are trying to do here is to render only these two options when there is no restaurant in the database, and when there is a restaurant in the database, to also render these main menu items from here. Okay, so with that being said, we are properly rendering like what pages should be visible here. But yeah, the next step is to go in the settings page and to start actually implementing these restaurant CRUD operations. So in the modules, let's go into the settings index, because this is the page for our settings that display restaurant name and restaurant address. As we can see here, we have a couple of form items for the name. We have a form item for the restaurant address, and we have a submit button. As we can see, we are tracking the address, the coordinates, but we are not tracking the name. Input for the name. Let's see how it is done in design and design. How is the form management implemented there? So components, let's go to the form. Input, for example. Here is the basic usage. Show code, placeholder. Value and on change. Value and on change. Okay, let's then define the const name and set name, the state for our name. So use state initially is going to be empty, and let's send to this form dot no to the actual input. Should it be to the actual input? That's interesting. Yes, it should be to the actual input. So the value will be name, and the on change, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see what data we will receive there. On change, callback, on change. Let's do console log event. Let's see it in action. So restaurant name. Come on, my camera. Why are you like this? So it's not working. Okay, does it have a on change text? It has the ID and options. It's been a while until from the time I work with ReactJS on the web. Most probably it's on the target and value. Target.value. So we can use set name with event.target.value. Let's see. A, B, C. What's going on? Okay, never mind. My something is happening around here. I have ghosts. So as you can see, it's working. I can update it, and yeah, everything is fine. Now we are also tracking the restaurant name. Let's see. Let's define the function of the on submit. So const on submit is going to be that function that is going to be called when we press the submit button. That's probably done from the form itself. So let's go ahead in the form and see some of the things. I don't know, form. On finish, on form, what? On finish values. It actually has a smart way of managing these forms. Just show me a very basic, simple one. Form name, initial values on finish. On finish is the function called? I don't know. Let's give it a try. Form on finish on submit. And does it also send something here? Values console log submit and then values. Okay, let's have a look. If I say hello and here submit, anything happening? You are loading. No, it's not working. Okay, button type primary. Probably this button should have like this specify that it submits the form. Button. Where is the button? HTML type submit. And now submit. Okay, we see the submit event. And when it happens, we go here and there is no values. And we're going to take the name, address, and coordinates from the state itself. Okay, perfect. All right. Submit. We have them here. And we can console log. Creating a new restaurant. And here the name. Let's do name, also address, and also coordinates. Submit. Creating a new restaurant. Hello, with this label of our address and this latitude and longitude. Awesome. So what do we have to do with this data? We have to go ahead and to create a new restaurant in our database based on this name, address, and coordinates. So to do that, we're going to need to import DataStore from AWS Amplify. We're going to need to import the model restaurant from the models. And on submit, we need to go ahead and do DataStore dot save. We're going to save a new restaurant with the next data. So what data do we need to save? First of all, name. And the name, we have it here. Then we have, if I look here at the data, restaurant. So ID is auto-generated. Name, we set it. Image, it's required. But at this moment, we haven't implemented like an image picker yet. So for that reasons, I'm just gonna go ahead and grab some images from our source assets. I'll have to grab them from give me a second. We should have them here. Uber Eats asset bundle, data, and for example, restaurants. Open. Okay, here I have some restaurant images. that I can use as an image for now. Later on, we can update it. Okay, after the image, we also have a delivery fee. So delivery fee is also required, yes, and it's a float number. Let's add 0, but in a moment we're gonna make sure it's possible to adjust it. Mean delivery time as well, it's an integer. Mean delivery time, let's do 15. And max delivery time, let's do 60 minutes or 120 minutes. Max delivery time. Okay, what other fields do we need there? Max delivery time, rating. We don't specify the rating because it's not required. Address. This is the string form version of the address, and we're gonna take it from the addressing state, but the addressing state is an object with, as we can see here, with a label and also a value description, probably the label. We are interested in the label. So address dot label. Okay, after that, we also need the latitude and longitude. Latitude and longitude. And these values, we're going to take them from coordinates dot latitude and then coordinates dot longitude. Latitude, longitude, let's see if they're here as well. LAT, LNG, perfect. And what else? Admin sub. Okay, this is very important. Admin sub. By specifying here the admin sub, we need to make this connection between the user that is authenticated and the restaurant that we are creating right now. Because without this, it will not work to check like this connection. So the admin sub, where do we take it from? Well, we will take it from the context, restaurant context, because we have it here sub. Let's go ahead and export it as well, like this. Besides the restaurant, we export also the sub. And back in our settings, where we take the restaurant, we don't take the restaurant yet. So we need to take the sub from the use restaurant context. Okay, and now we will set the sub inside our restaurant, inside our newly created restaurant. Let's go ahead and do what? Let's go ahead and create a new restaurant and see if it actually works. So restaurant name is test and address is Santa, I don't know. And let's press submit. We don't see any errors, which means that most probably it worked. So let's go in the content in our Amplify Studio. And we see this newly created restaurant test with the address, latitude, longitude, and also with the admin sub. And now if I'm gonna refresh this page, we should see it. We see the name of the restaurant test and we see the other objects here because the restaurant is already created. One last thing is I'm gonna go ahead and actually delete this test restaurant. Actions, delete one items. Because I want to automatically do that without having to refresh the page. And to automatically update that, we need to, after creating this new restaurant, we need to go ahead and set it in the context here, because our side menu depends on the restaurant and we need to set it here. So for that, we will export the set restaurant, the setter, and in the index, let's import it here besides the sub. On submit, after saving, we need to get the newly created restaurant. So for that, I'm gonna make this function async, and I'm gonna say const new restaurant equal to await DataStore save. Now this will give us back the newly created restaurant that we can set in the global context as new restaurant. And I can also have a look at maybe some alerts to show that it was successfully created. I don't know, let's say alert. What kind? Like this, success. Yeah, that's good. Let's have a look at the example. Alert, type success. But can it do that programmatically? Can I programmatically show it or not? Notification. Oh, okay. Probably this one is better. Okay, even message is even better. Success. Oh, perfect. So message, success. After setting the restaurant, let's do message success, but this message we will import it from ant design like this. So message success, restaurant has been created. And if I go to the settings right now and enter restaurant name, I don't know, new restaurant, and let's select the address. Let's submit. I see a restaurant has been created, and without any updates, I already see the title and the other menu items here in the list. Perfect. What's going on here? Should have a unique. Okay. We're gonna manage it. We're gonna see it. So creating a new restaurant is done. We have managed to automatically create a new restaurant, and depending on it, rendering parts of our application. I want to mention one more thing, because settings. But yes, let's continue with updating the restaurant, because creating it, we are done with that. Now it's time to update the restaurant and update the restaurant details. So for that, whenever we are getting to the settings here, if we have a restaurant in the context, that means that we want to populate these fields with the restaurant from the context. So if I go here, I will also get the restaurant from the context. Basically, we're going to use the same page settings for one, creating the restaurant, and if the restaurant is already created, for updating it. So restaurant, okay, and we're gonna define a use effect on the restaurant, because whenever we receive a new restaurant, we need to update our fields here: name, address, and coordinates. So the dependency will be restaurant itself. So if restaurant, then we can set name with the restaurant dot name. Then set address. With address, it's a bit trickier, to be honest, because we don't have in the restaurant data everything about that address. We have only the latitude and longitude. So yeah, I will not be able to update it at this moment. But with a name, it should work. Use effect, use effect. Oh, the arrow. So if restaurant is defined, here we see new restaurant. And when we press the submit button, we need to either create a new restaurant or update the existing one. So this function actually, you know what? I'm gonna create a new one on submit, which is gonna be a sync. And this one I'm gonna call it create new restaurant. And here I'm gonna check if the restaurant in our state is not defined, then I want to create a new restaurant. Otherwise, I want to update restaurant. And I can also do a wait. Now let's go ahead and implement this update restaurant function. Const update restaurant. The update restaurant will work in a following way. Const. We will also get the updated restaurant equal to await DataStore. We're gonna also call the .save, because the .save is used for both updating and creating new restaurants. But instead of creating a new one here, we want to create a copy and update the existing one. So to do that, we're gonna call the model that we want to update restaurant. We're gonna call a function on it, copy of. We need to provide the existing object of our restaurant, which we take from here, from the context. So we want to modify the existing one, and here is updated. We need to specify how do we want to update it. So we want to set, first of all, the updated dot name to the name from our state variable, and the same for the address and latitude and longitude, like these three. So updated dot address dot lat and lng is equal, here is equal, and here is equal. Okay, we need to make this function async as well. And here we need the semicolon. And after that is done, we will set it back into the global state, set restaurant with updated restaurant, to have the most up-to-date version. And also let's do a message.success restaurant updated restaurant updated. But you know what I'm gonna do? We might, when we update the restaurant, we might not have the address. So in that case, we don't want to set it back to null. We want to leave it as it is there. So I'm gonna check if address is defined, then I'm gonna update it. Otherwise, I'm gonna leave it as it is. Where do we have his coordinates? Coordinates LNG, coordinates LAT. Just to see them on the screen, I'm gonna also do set coordinates with latitude, which is restaurant dot latitude, and longitude, which is restaurant dot lng, just to see something about the address to make sure that it's updated. As you can see here, it queries and displays the existing address of the restaurant. And if I'm going to update the name to restaurant1 and press submit, a lot of things are happening here. Why we press on the on submit, update restaurant. Oh, here I call it again. I should do updated. Oh. Now what happened? Let's see. So, it's actually restaurant 1. And if I update it to restaurant 2, submit, it automatically updates here as well because we update it into the global context. And the good thing is that the address does not change if we actually don't change it. It remains the same. But if I'm going to change the address to, I don't know, San Francisco, and if I'm going to submit, these are the new addresses. And if I'm going to refresh the page, they should be saved in the database. And we can see that as well here. New restaurant, and the address is San Francisco. And if I just change the name without not just burgers, submit. If I'm going to change just the name, the address is not going to change and only the name is going to change. Here. Come on. So here we see the updated name. Perfect. Oh. So, how do you feel, guys? How is it going? Is it clear, everything that we're doing here? So yeah, with that being said, we are finished with creating and updating and managing the restaurant in our state. I like the name, not just burgers. Thank you. We might open a location soon, somewhere. So we are done with the restaurant CRUD operation. Yes, we're not covering all of them, like delete operations, because at the moment, this is not the most important part. We're going to see how to execute delete operations on, for example, dishes. And you're going to learn how to do that in a moment. But at the moment, we can move on to the next step. And the next step is to continue with our order CRUD operation. All right, let's actually do that, because we have started that, but we didn't finish it. But before that, let me commit everything and not forget to switch screens. This is restaurant CRUD. All right. So as I said, the next step is going to be in the orders. we are querying the actual orders from the database here, but we also need to filter them. And one of the filters that we need to filter on is based on which restaurant is this order for. Now that we are tracking and managing our restaurant in the context, we can simply get the restaurant, not like this, but destructuring with curly brackets from the use restaurant context. Let's try to import it. It doesn't want to import automatically, but we can do it here. Import use restaurant context from context and restaurant context. I have some. Okay. Now we need to filter these orders based on the restaurant ID. So let's go ahead and filter them like this. So for an order, we want to filter on order dot restaurant ID, order restaurant ID, and we want to query only the ones that are equal to our restaurant.id. Okay, let's see. Now, if I'm going to go here, there is no data because there is no orders for my application. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my admin sub from here. I'm going to remove this restaurant that I'm managing, and I'm going to assign myself to manage a restaurant that we already used and that has like orders. And if I'm not mistaken, is this Williamson. So let me add myself to manage this restaurant and to see if we have any data now. No data. Cannot read properties of undefined reading ID. Cannot read properties of restaurant. Let's see, context, restaurant context. I'm we need to put restaurant here. And only do this if restaurant is defined. If it's undefined, if it's null, then we don't query it. Now, all right, now we see a couple of them. We see one page of orders, and we know that all of them are for this specific restaurant because without this check, we have two pages of them. So if I remove this one, it's going to be 2 pages. But now all of them are for this restaurant. Okay. Another way we need to filter is we need to filter only new orders. Let me check the order statuses. So we need to get the new orders, we need to get the cooking and ready for pickup. If the order is already picked up, completed, accepted by the driver, not by the driver, who is accepting here? I think the driver. Yeah, the driver. Or if it's declined by the restaurant, we don't show it there. So let's filter based on that. So order dot order dot how is it called? No, we need to do it like this. Dot we need a war operator. So let's go ahead and have a look at the documentation how this war operator works. So Amplify DataStore. DataStore, manipulating data, querying for single predicates here equal okay, that's a string. Multiple condition can also be used, like the one defined with okay, for example, fetch all posts that has rating greater than 4 and are published. It's like this. Alternative or logical operator can also be used. If you wanted this to be an or statement, you would wrap your combined predicates with c.or. So dot war, and inside it we define another one and another one. Okay, I think I understand. So inside this order status, we are gonna say order status, which is an actual same order as here, but we want to specify order status dot status equal to, as I said, new, or it's equal to, or status is equal to cooking, or status is equal to ready for pickup. So it should be one of these statuses. Will it work? Ready for pickup, new, and that's it. We don't see any other ones. For example, if I'm gonna do ready for pickup, new, ready for pickup. For example, instead of cooking here, if I'm gonna do complete or how? Completed. And I'm gonna see them here as well, completed. Okay, we see that it works. Amazing. Yes, now that's good. We are filtering to see only the orders of this specific restaurant that are either in the new, cooking, or ready for pickup. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and change the status of one order to cooking to see if it works as well. So order, for example, one of these new, I'm going to do cooking, save. And cooking, perfect. Probably the colors are not good, but that's fine. I'm thinking, does the restaurant care about the delivery address? I think it cares more about the time when the order was submitted. So I can go ahead and actually in the tables, instead of delivery address, created at, and it's gonna be created at, this is the data index, and the key is going to be created at. Let's see. Yes, it will specify the created at. If we want to improve how this created at looks, we can use some libraries like Days.js or Moment.js, but I think Moment.js is deprecated. And to improve the style of this created ad to say like 20 minutes ago or 40 minutes ago or 50 minutes ago and so on. For now, I'm gonna leave it like this. The next step, which is very similar to this page, is the order history page, because in the order history we need to display the same style of orders, but only the ones that have a status of basically the rest of the status, the one that are not related to the restaurant. So I can go ahead in the order history here, and let's see what do we need to bring from the orders. Well, we will need to bring the state for the orders and the restaurant. Restaurant is not state, is actually a variable that we take from the context. We need to import this use state. Use state and use restaurant context. Contexts, restaurant context. And then we will need to get this use effect. This use effect, let's grab it here, that will query the orders. We will also need DataStore. So let's import DataStore from AWS Amplify, and also let's import the order model like this. Now, restaurant query order is equal to this, or now let's bring the other statuses. We will depend on the new cooking ready for pickup, the rest picked up. So if it's picked up, if it's completed, if it's accepted, or if it is declined by the restaurant. One of these statuses. And what else? What else? Wait a second, I did them in a wrong place. I had to change them here. So it should be picked up, completed, accepted. You know what? I think that accepted will not be here. Accepted is when the driver accepts the order that he's going to pick it up, but it's still physically the order is in the restaurant. So the restaurant is still waiting for the driver. So for that reason, I'm going to move the accepted from our order history to our orders. Like this. And for the accepted, I will need to add a new color. Order status dot accepted is going to be, I don't know, purple. Sorry. So back in our order history, we picked up, completely declined by restaurant, table columns. Let's bring the table columns from our orders because we already implemented that. And also with a render order status as well. So table columns from here. Let's remove them. Let's remove them and paste the function render order and also table columns. We need to import the order status from our models. because we depend on them. And we need to specify the colors for the picked up, for the completed, and for the declined by restaurant. Completed is going to be green. Picked up is going to be yellow or orange. Okay. I think we are done. Let's give it a go. Cannot read properties of defined to fixed. To fixed. Price to fixed. Why? Some of them have a price undefined. Let's do or 0 or with question mark. Okay, delivered, created at. I don't know what's going on here, but probably these are old orders. So let me just try to console log orders. Are these old orders? No, it has a total. Probably the data orders history. Yes, it's coming from the imported hard-coded data, but we need to take it from the state. And let's have a look, completed and completed. Both of them have ID, the created at, the status, and the price. Awesome. Do we have the error here on this page? What do you want? Each child in a list should have a unique key property. Check the render method of body at the table. What's up with the table? Row key. Oh, it's not order ID, but it's ID, and the same in the orders here. Row key, it's ID. And now if I'm going to refresh, the error should be gone. Yes, perfect. And I can go ahead and remove the console log because we don't need it anymore. Do we have it here? Console log. Now, where is it coming from? It's in the order history. And yes, perfect. So now order history displays the completed orders, and the orders page displays the orders that are currently active, either new, ready for pickup, or cooking. Awesome. So we are done with querying the list of orders, filtering them based on the restaurant ID and based on the status. Now we need to go ahead and implement like the details page of our order itself. As we can see, like when we press on this line, we are redirected to order/undefined. So basically, it means that we are not taking the proper parameter to redirect there. In the orders index, in the table, we have one row. Click, we navigate to order item.id should be. Now, if I go back and navigate here, yes, we are navigating to this order with this ID. Perfect. Now, let's open this order details page, which we can find in the detailed order. Here we have the ID, and what we will need to do is to query the order, not to take it from the dummy data, but to actually query it. So let's go ahead and define the state for our order. Use order equal use state. Initially, it's going to be null. Now, in a use effect that is imported from React, and that is called every time our ID in the parameters changes, we need to query specifically the order with this ID using the data store. So let's go ahead and do data store that is imported from AWS Amplify dot query. What do we want to query? We want to query the order that we need to import from models. But we don't want to query all of them. We want to query only the order with this ID. And by specifying the ID as a string in the second parameter, we are querying by ID, and it will return us not an array of items, but only one item. And that item we can then set in our state as set order. Set order. Not use order here, but set order. Okay, for example, here is information about customer. Let me first do simply console log order, just for you to see it. So yeah, here it is, order with all the information about it. Okay, on this page, we only have information about the total here right away. And that is in this total field. So let's see where we're displaying the total. Where is the total? Here. We're gonna display order dot total dot to fixed and 2. And also let's add the question marks because it might not be there yet. Now it should be automatically updated. 47. If I go to the other order, it's $8 and so on. Perfect. The total is dynamic. Now let's go ahead and dynamically display information about the customer itself, the name of a customer and the address of a customer. To do that, in our order, we have user ID. So based on this user ID, we need to query the customer itself. Let's save it as customer, set customer, use state equal null. Now, inside another use effect, that depends on the order dot user ID. We will check if order dot user ID is defined. Then we want to do DataStore dot query user from the models. Also by ID, by the order dot user ID. And after that, we want to save it in state. Set user or set customer, yes. Now with this information, let's go ahead and render the name here like this, customer dot name. And here, let's do customer dot address. Now let's have a look. Customer name Vadim, customer address like this, but most probably all of them will be from the same. Cannot read null of address. Yes, it should be with question mark here. Most probably all of them are all the orders belong to the same user because that's how we tested it, and that's the data we have there. But it's actually coming from here, from user Vadim, and the address. So if I save and if I reload, I see my new customer address. Awesome. So let's move on to the dishes, because the dishes are saved in another table, and yes, we have this order dish that is an intermediate table between a dish and a order. And here we have the order ID, order, and the dish ID. So what we will have to do is to get all the order dish that belongs to this order ID, basically to a specific order ID. Okay, so for that we're gonna need a new state for dishes, or let's try dishes. Use state, initially it's gonna be an empty array. And when do we do that? Well, when the use effect, we query that only when the order.id changes. And here let's check, first of all, if order.id is undefined, let's return. Otherwise, we will go ahead and using DataStore dot query, we're gonna query order dish, and we don't want to query all of them. We want to filter. So the condition that we are going to provide here will be that the order ID of our order dish should be equal to this order.id. After we receive a response, then we will set dishes. Now let's go ahead, and before rendering everything, let's do console log orders, not orders, but dishes. All right, here we have model, and we see a dish. I mean, we see a order dish that has order ID. It has the quantity, and it also has the dish itself. Perfect. I think that's good. I think that's exactly what we need. So in this list, data source will be dishes. Okay. In this list, where is the list? Data source is dishes, but render item is dish item dot name. It's not dish item dot name, but it's dish item dot dish dot name. So dish item dot dish dot name. Let's have a look. Didn't change much. Oh, because I was working with a price. The same for here, dish item, dish name, and this one is the quantity. Okay, so we see that this order only order this cheese tequeños, which costs 6.9, and the total is 8 because there is also the delivery fee. If I go back to another one, for example, this one, we see that it ordered 4 of these and 2 hamburgers. Awesome. So it actually works. Just 4 hamburgers. So what is left on this page? We're displaying the order ID, we're displaying the customer information, we're probably displaying the dishes, the total. Now we need to conditionally render these buttons, because when the order is new, we need to render these 2 buttons, decline order and accept order. So where is decline? This one, this div should be rendered. I'm gonna put it in here, and it should be rendered only if order dot status equal order status dot new. Only if it's new. Food is done should be rendered only when the order status is cooking. And otherwise, we don't need any buttons, because if we will press on this cooking, we will set it like that's done. We are done with it. So let's have a look. Right now, nothing is here. Maybe we should also render the status in the header to see the order status, similar to how we are rendering it in the table orders, like with this tag. Yeah, let's take it render order status in the detail order. Probably this function should be put into utility function, because we are using it in multiple places. But for this project, that's okay. So render order status, I want to do it in the title. So order ID where should I put it? Let me just grab this tag from here, put it here, and I don't need a function. I will just simply keep this constant at the top. Order dot status here, order dot status. Now it's ready for pickup. Okay, this one is ready for pickup, but for example, a new order, again, I cannot read property null, reading status, because here it should be like this. Or even better, we should do, if order is not loaded yet, return like a loading indicator that I can take from actually and design spinners, spin. Let's do it like this. And this spin will import from and design. So now if I go here, I see it right away. Status is new, and I see the accept order or decline order. So what should happen when we press decline order? We should simply update the order and update the status of it. So for that, in the button decline order, we will provide on press, on click, a function decline order. Let's do the same for the accept order. On click, it's going to be a function accept order. And let's do the same for the food is done. On click, ready for pickup. So let's implement these functions here. Oh, const on accept. We need a function on decline, or how is it called? And lastly, a function ready for pickup. Probably different. Accept order, decline order. Accept order and decline order. Actually, all of them should be async, or we'll see if we will need to do it. So what should happen on accept order? We need to update the order, and we need to change simply the status of a order. So for example, DataStore dot save. As I said, like we use the dot save method to update an order, and we use the order dot copy of to create a copy of the existing order that we have in state, and updated is going to be equal to updated dot status. We want to set it to order status dot cooking. We want to put it in the cooking state. What else should happen here? Const updated order is equal to await data store, and here we can say set order with the updated order. For that, we need this function async. So the same thing should happen with the decline order. With the decline order. But the only difference is the order status should be declined by a restaurant. And the same thing should happen for the ready for pickup. The status is ready for pickup. And the function is async as well. We could also make it a bit abstract and do update order status. And we're going to say async new status. That will do all of these things. We'll update it based on the parameter that we receive. And then, like in all of these functions, we simply do update order status to order status dot ready for pickup. Here, we simply call it and do decline by restaurant. And here, we simply do it with cooking. Now all the logic is inside one function, and here we just simply send different variables there, because that's the only thing that is different from these three use cases. So let's give it a go, and let's decline this order. So if I'm going to decline the order, we see right away decline by restaurant. We don't see the buttons. And if I'm going to go to the restaurant here, no, let's copy the ID. And if I'm going to go to the orders, if I'm going to search this ID, it's not here, but if I'm going to go to order history, we see it right away here. Perfect. Let's go ahead, a new order, and let's accept it. Okay, we moved it into the cooking. And after some time passes, it will still be here in cooking. We can press food is done, and it's ready for pickup. After that, we cannot do anything. We're still going to see it here. But after the restaurant picks it up, we will see it in the order history. All right, so that's how we manage and update the order statuses from here. I think that's everything when it comes to the orders. One more thing that I want to do is to add the same click handler to the order history to be able to be redirected there. For example, in the orders, I have this, on the table, I have this on row click, but I need to do that the same in the order history. In the table on row click, and this navigate we will take from the const navigate equal use navigate. And in the order history, I can also, but it should, okay. When we navigate, it should start with slash, because we don't want to append this URL to the order history. We simply want the order from the beginning, like this. And we see it's completed. And this way we can also see the details about orders, about the past orders. Awesome. So as I said, that's it with order management system for our dashboard. So I'm gonna go ahead and do git add, git commit, order management system for all the CRUD operations. Perfect. So back to our this one. The next step is our menu CRUD. And the menu CRUD is for creating, getting, and removing menu items from our application. How do restaurants upload multiple images of food? We design our data model to work only with one image, but you can also design it to work with multiple images. If you, for example, in the data model, for the dish, instead of image here, instead of one image, we can put an array. And in that case, we will be able to store an array of images, an array of URLs, and display them in our application. Okay, so as I said, the next step is our menu here. We need, first of all, in the new menu item to create a menu item. So let's go ahead and start from there, from creating a new menu item. We will find that page in the module and in the create menu item page. Here, as we can see, we have a form item, form item, form item. I want to see how to properly manage forms with design, because we have a bit more forms there. So I want to just have a look. Form data control, include layout, initial values, validation, and submit. Form name, label, rubber, initial values, on finish. Okay, it has rules as well. So let's try it like this. So the button should be of type HTML type submit. The form should have a on finish failed function on the form itself. So let's define them. We don't need this because we are not using TypeScript here. And each form item should have a name. Form items beside the label should also have a name. So if I provide the name with, yes, this one is going to be name. Form item here, name is equal description. Price, yes, name equal price. We can also provide some rules. For example, for the name, we can say that it is required. Required is true. And if I put the placeholder here as well, because I think they said that it will send all of them down. No, the placeholder is not being sent. A, B, C, A1, submit. Success, name, description, and name. And if I don't provide the name, I will see name is required. Perfect. And the same for the description. We can add the rules here for description. And for the price as well. But the price, we need to specify that it's a number. So let's have a look here, numbers. Input number. Oh, it's actually an input number, so it's gonna work. It should work. Okay, so now in this on finish, we have these values. What we have to do is to actually create a dish based on that values. And the values, as we can see here, is the description, name, and price. Okay, let's go ahead and using the data store, we will save the new dish. And what we're going to save, we're going to save a new dish that we should import. We should import the dish from models. So let's go ahead and see what values do we have to give a dish. And to see that, I'm going to simply go ahead and data modeling in the dish itself. ID is auto-generated, name. So the name, we're going to take it from the values, basically from here. And I can actually right away destructure it, name. Then we have image, but this image is optional, so I'm not going to give anything. Description as well, I'm going to destructure it from here because we're going to get it from the form. The price as well, I'm going to get it from here. And lastly, we have their restaurant ID, right? Restaurant ID. So this restaurant ID, we need to specify the restaurant ID. Where do we get it from? We can get the restaurant from the context. Equal use restaurant context. I don't know why it doesn't auto suggest me, but I can import it like this. Contexts, and then restaurant context. And here for the ID, let's do restaurant.id. What's going on? Parsing type. A typecast expression is expected to be wrapped with parentheses. Wait, I need to put everything into an object. Now it's better. So we save it. After that, we can do message dot success dish was created, and then we can go back, right? We can go back. So const navigation, use navigation. Is there anything like go back? Or I can simply say navigation dot navigation to the dishes to the menu. So from here, from the menu, if I go to new item, let's try new dish description, price 1.2, submit. Dish was created. Was it? Let's see. Let's go here. New dish, yes, it was actually created correctly. That means that yes, our form for the new dish is working properly. Now let's go ahead and query all the dishes of a restaurant here and display them right away in the form, in the table. That is actually happening in the, where is it? Restaurant menu. And instead of taking them from the dishes, we're gonna take them using DataStore, fetch them using DataStore, save in state, and display them in the table. So dishes, or how is it called? Yes, dishes set. Initially, it's empty array, and inside the use effect, with an empty dependency array, we're gonna say DataStore dot query. I want to query the dish model, but it doesn't want to import properly. Import dish from models, but not all the dishes, but with a condition there. And the condition will be on the restaurant ID. I want the restaurant ID to be equal to the restaurant.id that we take from the context. From the use restaurant context. So let's import use restaurant context from okay. And after that, we also need to set dishes in state. Perfect. As we say, we are missing the restaurant here. Restaurant dot ID. And we can also do a check to make sure that the restaurant dot ID is defined. Now, most probably we will have to change the table columns, but let's go ahead and do console log dishes. And here we will see this array of 3 models. And actually they're working as expected because no, they're still probably taken from here. Name, price, and action. Okay. Oh, this is the new dish that I created. So if I'm gonna go burger, best burger 4.6, I see it right away here. And also the user in his own application, he's also gonna see this newly added dish in his application. Okay, creating, we are done. Querying, we are done. The last thing is removing. By pressing on this remove, we will first, where is these messages? Using an alert like this pop confirm, we can, are you sure, yes or no? So, or even with a model. I don't think we need a model. The pop confirm looks quite good. So let's see the pop confirm. Oh, it's too much code. I don't want to. Actually, no, it's not a lot. It's only this pop confirm. That we need to wrap our button in. So this pop confirm from end design. Like this. What's going on? What do you want from me? Oh, wait a second. Why have two of them? Should be only one. Yes, like this. Title, are you sure you want to delete this dish? And on confirm, delete dish. And delete dish. We need to know which dish we are trying to delete. So we are going to get it from where? Most probably from this render. So in the table, if I look at the render method, render. Render of it's text, record, and index. So I'm interested in the record. So I'm not interested in the first one. I'm interested in the item. So remove dish item. This delete dish is going to be a function, const delete dish. Like this. And let's go ahead and just console log something just to see if it works. Delete dish. Taking our React application, let's try to place remove. Are you sure you want to delete this dish? No, nothing happens. But if I press yes, I see delete dish here. Awesome. So how do we delete a dish? Well, we do that by, we're going to receive it here as dish. And we can simply do DataStore dot delete. And what do we want to delete? We want to delete the dish itself. And we can also update the state. So set dishes with dishes.filter, where basically we want to remove that dish from the state. Now, if I'm going to remove a new dish, yes, it removed from the state everything except this one. So my check here should be is different than dish ID. Now it is actually removed from the database, as you can see. And if I remove a burger, it's gonna remove only it. So I can add it again like this, not just burger. Submit. And we see it here, not just burger. Amazing, perfect. So yes, I think with this feature, we are done with a CRUD operation for our dishes and for our menu, right? Because we can create a new item here. We can see a list of them here. We can remove. At this moment, we cannot update. But as you saw how we can update something in state, the same way you can implement it here in the menu as well. You would have like an update button in the actions here. And whenever you press on that update button, redirect to a page similar to a page very similar to this new dish page, which can be either the same page or two different pages, one for a new menu item and one for update menu item. I recommend having it separate because it's going to be easier to manage the code. So yes, the restaurant cannot upload an image for the item. At this moment, we haven't implemented that yet. We'll see if we manage to do that today, because it depends how much time it will take. Let me go ahead and do git add. Menu management CRUD. There are two things that we can do now. One of them is the real-time orders with subscription, and I think this is actually more important because, for example, whenever we are on the website on the orders page, if there is going to be a new order, I would like to receive it right away here without having to refresh the page. This is quite an important feature for the restaurants. They should receive it in real time as soon as possible to start actually preparing it, not like after 5 minutes when someone decides to refresh the page. So for that, we have DataStore real-time subscriptions. So we can go ahead and subscribe to some of the events that might happen in our with our models. So let's go ahead in models in the orders in the index, because here is where we want to listen for new orders that are generated in the application. So we are going to set that listener up in use effect. So let's do use effect. I'm not showing, so I didn't do much. The only thing that I did is to go to the source, modules, and orders index.js, because on this page, we want to show new orders whenever they appear, whenever they are created. So let's go ahead in this page. After this use effect, when should we call this function? When the component mounts, we need to start listening for updates. So const, okay, DataStore dot observe. We want to observe changes to the order model. And dot subscribe. When we subscribe, we will receive this message. So we will receive the message, and we can do console.log message. Another thing that is very important is this DataStore.subscribe will return back a function unsubscribe that we can call to stop listening for updates. Unsubscribe. And this is very important because we want to stop to listen for updates when we unmount these components in order to prevent data leaks. So whenever we unmount, unsubscribe. No, actually, it's a subscription object. So it's subscription object, and we can call subscription.unsubscribe. Perfect. So let's go ahead, open our application here. Let's remove all the logs. I don't have any. And let's go ahead and create a new order from our Amplify Studio. Basically, we are simulating that a user is creating an order. So the total is going to be 1. Order status is going to be new. We need to link it to a user. We need to link it to a restaurant. And our restaurant is this. I don't know which one is our restaurant, but I can find out. I can go in the context and do a console log sub. This will show me that. No, that's gonna. No, I need restaurant.id. So let me see. It's this one. If I look here, okay, this one, Florian Forest. So let's do save order. And in the React application, we see a console log, which is coming from our subscription. In index here, we subscribe to the order updates, and we console log the message. We see that the operation type is insert. And that's what actually we are interested in, because if there is a new order, the operation type will be insert. So op type, if op type is equal to insert, then what else? Element. Element is the data about the newly created order. What are we interested in here? Well, we are interested if this order is for us, because it might not be for us. And let's do. And if I'm going to get the op type and the element, which I'm gonna rename to okay, let me leave it element. Easier get it here. So if the element dot restaurant, let me see how to get the restaurant ID. Order restaurant ID, order restaurant ID. Yes. And if this one is equal to the restaurant.id, then that means that this is a order for us, right? We can also check the status, but I'm gonna leave it like this. So what do we want to do with a new order? We want to set, should we set it in state? Do we depend on anything that we don't have here? As you can see, we don't have a relationships here yet, like restaurant and Valver. But I think we don't need those. So we can simply set orders in state based on the existing orders. I will simply put our element at the top and then the existing orders. So if we look here, in the list, the first one, is ready for pickup. We have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 orders. Let me try to create a new one. Create order, link to a user, link to a restaurant with Florian Forest. Total is 2. Order status is new. And that's it. Let's save. Now, automatically, without any refresh, without any update, we see a new order at the top of this list with the status new. We don't see any data here because we didn't add it, like we just simply created it. And now, after refreshing, like we see it here at the bottom. So that's how we receive and subscribe to updates. And in this situation, we're going to receive these updates about our orders without us having to refresh the page. It's also possible to listen to updates not only for, let's say, where is it? Not only for insert operation, but we can also do something for the update operation. So for example, we can check like if there is a order updated, then maybe we also want to listen to these updates and do something in our UI, for example, to update the status of a order automatically. So here is the idea of how you can subscribe to these updates and how you can take action. Like you can expand these features, and I would encourage you to expand, like to listen to more events, to in order to make your application more dynamic. So with that being said, like we are done with subscriptions. They are very important on this page where we are looking at the new orders that appear in the list. So for that, I'm going to do git add, git commit, subscriptions, and git push origin main. All right, so yes, we are done for today. So if you have questions, please let me know in the comments right now, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you a quick demo of everything that we have managed to do today. So I'm gonna sign out first, and I'm also going to, yes, we started today by implementing and configuring Amplify for our project. And we did that by connecting it to the same Amplify backend that we have built for our mobile applications. This is very important because we want these independent front-end applications to communicate with the same backend, to work with the same data, with the same users, to be able to share data between them. So that's why it's very important to do these connections to the same backend. We did that by pulling the backend in our application, and then we have set up our authentication. We set up our authentication very easy, very fast by using the with authenticator hook. And by doing that, we have a possibility to create a new account here and to sign in. And also there is the forgot password flow that is fully functional and working, where you can put your email, you'll receive a confirmation code on your email, and you'll be able to reset it to a new password. After we create an account where we sign in, we are redirected to the orders page. Here in the left corner, we also see the name of the restaurant that we are managing right now. And if we are a new manager, a new user, then we are going to need to create the new restaurant here in the settings page by providing the name and also by finding the address with this autocomplete feature. After we submit it, it's going to be updated, and the user will see you on the map. After you create your account, set your address, probably the next step would be to start uploading your menu items. For that, you'd come to the menu here and you'll press new item. Here, you're gonna say the name of the dish, the description, and the price. You'll submit it, and right away you will see it here in this list at the bottom, pizza with a price. If you are not okay with something, you can also remove them with a confirmation pop-up. Okay, after we are done with menu, users will start seeing this information in their application. And it would be interesting to run our applications as well to see how everything interacts together. But yeah, like they will be able to see your orders, your items, and they will be able to start ordering them. The new orders you will automatically receive here on this page, and you will see like when it was created, the price, and the status of this order. For the new orders, you're going to check like if you want to accept the order or for some reason decline it. You can decline it and it automatically disappears from this list. Or you can accept the order and it sets it in the cooking state. And after some time the food is done, you can put food is done and it is in ready for pickup. While it is in ready for pickup, you'll still gonna see it here because physically the order is still at the restaurant. And it's going to be here until the driver accepts the order, comes to your location, and then from his application, he changes the order from ready for pickup to the next state. So for example, I don't know, I'm not going to find that specific one. But yeah, like when the driver changes ready for pickup, the order will disappear from here and you will be able to see it only in the order history. In the order history is all the past orders that you have done that are in either like declined, completed, or the other non-active states. You can press on any orders and here you will see the details of it, what specifically it ordered, the total, and so on. So with that being said, like we are managing everything about our restaurant in terms of orders, menu, information like name of the restaurant, address, and so on. So if you have any questions, let me know right now. Hey, Most, thank you very much. I'm good. I'm a bit tired today, to be honest, because it was quite a hard week. So I'm really looking forward to get started with the weekend. Yes, and also in 2 days, my family is visiting me from my home country. They're coming here in Tenerife, so it's gonna be a lot of fun spending some time with them. Can you implement the Google Autocomplete for the user application? I'm interested in doing that, but maybe to do like a very, very short video of explaining specifically how to use Google Autocomplete in React Native. Maybe we can do that because I don't want to create a new episode just to cover this feature. as it's quite a small feature. But yeah, like it's an interesting feature. Let me add it to my list. Google Auto Complete. Maybe to create a small tutorial, short, specifically for this. Hopefully next time use notJust for the backend. We'll see, we'll see. All right, guys. So thank you very much for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed this super long series. Let me know in the comments, should we continue it? And if we would continue this series, what other features you would like to see? Because it seems that we have like almost everything from the core. I mean, from the most important features we have covered here, and I'm pretty hyped up about how this project turned out till the end. So I hope you found this valuable. If you did, make sure to smash the subscribe button, like the video, and leave down your comments, what other tutorials we should do in future. And yeah, take care, stay hydrated, and write clean code. Bye-bye.